today about the love bank. The love bank. You know what? All yesterday afternoon, yesterday evening, sitting in my office. That song for you. So everybody say it together. Thank you, Jerry, for not doing it. I tell you, I was at a wedding of a family member, and it was on a boat, and we didn't think anything of it. It's on a boat. All of a sudden, I hear the Love Boat being sung at a high volume. It's the captain of the boat. The Love Boat. And he sings the whole song as he comes down because he's doing the ceremony. And I thought, I've done a lot of wedding ceremonies. Never before. Never will I. Let's look at 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It's not irritable. It keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. Prophecy and speaking in unknown languages and special knowledge will become useless, but love will last forever. We're going to talk today about love in our families and especially in our marriages. Let's pray. God, thanks. Lord, I pray that you will open our hearts to hear from you today. God, that the words that come out of me would be direct from you, Father. Thanks. Bless us now. We ask it in your name. Amen. I'm going to share with you some stuff today that I wish somebody had shared with me 38 years ago. This would have been a nice part of our premarital counseling if somebody had told me this, but instead, we had to learn it the hard way. Marriage is like a fishing net. Every day, fishermen use their nets to catch fish and sell them at the market. One fisherman takes his fish from the net every day, but he lets debris accumulate on the net. Eventually, so much debris is caught in the net that he can hardly cast it out of the boat. And when he does, it's almost impossible to retrieve. Finally, in a fit of anger, he cuts the net loose and goes home without it. He's unable to catch fish and sell fish again until he buys another net. Another fisherman removes debris every time he retrieves the net with the fish he caught. Each time he casts his net, it's clean and ready to catch more fish. As a result, he catches and sells enough fish to support himself and his family. In the parable that you just heard, the fish are emotional needs that are met in marriage. They're what we catch. They're the important thing. They're the things that make our lives important. The emotional needs that we all have. And by the way, it's still on the website. If you have not yet, and I'll put a link in today's message too, if you have not yet downloaded Dr. Harley's emotional needs questionnaire, I cannot tell you strongly enough that you need to do it. Because here's the thing. You may think you know what your spouse needs, and you may have no idea. And this breaks it down. It'll give you the top 5. And if you're meeting those in emotional needs, you're filling up the love bank. That's what we're going to talk about. The debris are love busters, habits that cause unhappiness. Bad marriages are like the first fisherman's net. Selfish demands, disrespectful judgments, angry outbursts, independent behavior, and dishonesty accumulate over time. The burden of the unhappiness they cause ruins a couple's willingness and ability to meet each other's emotional needs. Eventually, the marriage supplies no benefits to either spouse and ends in divorce or emotional separation. Some people aren't divorced. They just happen to live in the same, but they live in the same house. They're not husband and wife. They're roommates that are having trouble getting along. Good marriages are like the second fisherman's net. The love busters are eliminated as soon as they appear, making it easy for each spouse to meet each other's emotional needs. So we're going to talk about the love bank, because there's a love bank in each person. So I took I literally took this from Dr. Harley's stuff that Lynette and I have been talking about and reading and learning. And man, 38 years and we're still learning a lot about our marriage. So I want you to understand, and by the way, I forgot to Lynette links for his books. His Needs, Her Needs, Love Busters. What am I missing? Fall in Love, Stay in Love. Guys, I'm telling you, read this book. It's not going to make you, look, most of these things make the guy feel like he's just a horrible person. And you know, if you weren't a man, everything would be fine. Okay, but that's kind of the whole married thing. No, he doesn't say that at all. But he does say to women and to men, you're not meeting your partner's emotional needs, and you've got habits that are hurting your marriage. And let me tell you something. It would be easier to gargle razor blades than to do some of this. But do you want to have a good marriage or not? Do you want to stay in love? And I don't mean just, oh, I love them like you love milkshakes. I mean, are you in love with them? It's a big difference. So let's talk about the giver and the taker. Two things that reside inside of you, the giver and the taker. Look at Philippians chapter 2. Linda and I were sitting on the back porch yesterday, and I was going over my message, and she's the one she's actually the brilliant one here that brought this up. And also, if you don't like it and you think it's unbiblical, talk to Lynette, because she's the one. Philippians 2, 3, and 4. Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves. Listen to this now. Don't look out only for your own interests, but take an interest in others too. Now, I've read that for years. I've read that verse. I've preached on this verse. And it's always the idea that somebody make everybody else more important than you, stay humble. But look what it says. Don't look out only for your own interests. Go to the next one. Don't look out only for your own interests. So that means you're also looking out for your interests, aren't you? Then the next part it says, but take an interest in others too. So there's a balance there that we're supposed to find in our life. We're supposed to find a balance between being humble, making sure that everybody is more important than us, but also understanding that we have needs to be met as well. There's a balance there. Have you ever thought that your spouse had two personalities? In our house, I'm not Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I'm just Mr. Hyde twice. I think of it, you go, one that is caring and considerate and so nice and so loving, and the other that is just, ah. As a kid, my mom used to do that. She would be screaming at us. You kids, I'm going to kill you until God you die, and I'm going to... And then the phone rings. She goes, hello? Oh, hi. Oh, God bless you. No, I'm just here enjoying quality time with my kids. Really? Because you threatened to kill us a minute ago, and we thought you meant it. Everybody has two personalities inside them. There's the giver and the taker. We all have them. And if you try to say, no, I'm only a giver, you're a liar. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. Marital problem solving is made much harder than it should be because we both have givers and takers. That doesn't make sense, does it? I'll explain. The giver is the part of you that follows this rule. Do whatever you can to make the other person happy and avoid anything that makes the other person unhappy, even if it makes you unhappy. Now, when you hear that, that sounds like Philippians 2, doesn't it? Well, yes, everybody's more important than me, and I'm going to just give and give and give. But there's a problem. The giver is only one half of your personality. The taker is the other half. The taker says, do whatever you can do. You do whatever you can to make yourself happy and avoid anything that makes yourself unhappy, even if it makes others unhappy. Now, I know everyone here heard that and said, well, that's not me, Pastor Jerry. There's not a taking bone in my body. I'll tell you what, I'll lie to my friends, you lie to your friends, but let's not lie to each other. Has anybody here, other than me, ever thought, yeah, I got some taker in me? I got some taker in me. It's the part of you that wants the most out of life, and it grows out of your basic instinct for self-preservation. In our everyday life, givers and takers usually solve problems together. For example, we buy groceries, we give money, and we take groceries. That makes absolute sense to us. Do you ever haggle with the grocery with Vons? Hi, I know this bread is $2.49, but I'd really like it for $2.35 if I could. They'll tell you, leave the bread, go away, and don't ever come back. We don't give the grocery store more money. I know the bread's $2.49, but I'd like to pay you $3 for it. If you're doing that, there's something wrong with you. And we don't take the groceries without paying for them. That's called stealing. And you would end up one of my former clients. But in marriage, something really strange happens to the way our givers and takers operate. It's almost like they work independently of each other. Either the giver's in charge and we give unconditionally to our spouses, or the taker's in charge where we take what we want from our spouses without giving anything in return. When the giver's in charge, we're loving and considerate. Honey, is there anything you need from the kitchen? That's the part all of us likes. We like that part of us. But we have the other part of us, the taker. She better bring me back some toast. I don't know why toast. I don't know why toast. We tend to make personal sacrifices when the giver's in charge, and we see to it that our spouses are happy and fulfilled because our takers are not there to defend our personal interests, and our givers don't care how we feel. That make sense? You following me so far? But when the taker's in charge, we're rude, demanding, and inconsiderate. All we seem to think about is ourselves and what our spouses can do to make us happy. We expect our spouses to make sacrifices for us because our takers don't care how our spouse feels. Understand this. Everybody look at me. Make me feel pretty. Not like that would help. When you are demanding things from your spouse, it's your taker in charge, and in the end, you don't care how they feel. When you're the giver, you don't care how you feel. And inevitably, this leads to a conflict. It leads to a conflict in us. You might think that you're married to a crazy person because they've got these high highs and low lows. They can be rude and inconsiderate, but loving and caring. In reality, it's just the battle between the giver and the taker. And marriage brings out the giver and the taker in all of us. And that makes us crazier than we usually are. So we have a tendency to think that it's not the giver that ruins marriages, it's the taker. But the taker takes over because the giver gives too much. It's the effort of the giver to give our spouses anything they want that sets up the taker for its destructive acts. After you've been giving and giving and giving to your spouse and receiving very little in return, because you haven't asked for much, you haven't bargained for anything, your taker rises up to straighten out the situation. Like the old westerns, right? Where the cattle baron is just running roughshod over the town, and he gets by with it, and everything's his way, and then Clint Eastwood comes into town. If you've ever seen the movie Unforgiven, that's exactly what it is. He comes in, he's going to take over, take care of business. The taker sees the unfairness of everything that's going on, and it steps in to balance the books. But instead of becoming more balanced, the taker takes everything and pushes the giver out of the way altogether. I've been giving enough, now it's your turn to give. Sound familiar? That's why when we argue, we end up taking no prisoners. The giver will only try to be nice for so long before the taker shoves it out of the way and says, it's my way or the highway. The taker's instinctive strategy for getting what we need in marriage is to make demands, show disrespect, and have angry outbursts. Sound familiar? They're what Dr. Harley calls love busters. And that's precisely what the taker in your relationship does. The taker in your relationship ruins your marriage. It's the taker in your marriage that causes hurts. It's the taker in your marriage that leads to emotional separation and eventually divorce. So, what does this mean? Well, there's a thing in all of us called the love bank. Can we sing it again? Shots fired, shots fired. Every person in your life has a love bank that's just for them. Mike, I know you. You have a love bank account in my life. Don't get crazy. It's really low. But I mean, everybody you know has a love bank account. That's how you decide who you're going to be friends with and who you're not. I built you up. I had to take you down a notch. Okay, when these people are associated with our good feelings, love units are deposited into their accounts. And when they're associated with bad feelings, love units are withdrawn. In other words, we're emotionally attracted to people who have positive love balances in our life. In fact, I made a slide that took way too long to do. The green are deposits and the red are withdrawals. Am I going too fast for anybody? No. Okay, this is your love bank. I could put, Jerry Godsey on there. I'll put Jeremiah Vick. And, most of the time it's green. Every now and then it's red. If Jeremiah was looking at mine, it would be all red and occasionally green. Look, we're either attracted to people or repulsed by them. And it's a level of that. Now, here's the thing. If you don't think this is real, somebody in your life you just cannot stand to be around. Me. Okay? Think of me. All right? You can't make yourself like them. Have you tried? Have you ever tried to make yourself like somebody you don't like? Oh, hi. Good morning. I do this. You ever bite the inside of your lip when someone's talking to you? There's a dent back here, I'm pretty sure, from me doing that. I learned it early in the ministry. Look, the deposits or withdrawal, they're what your feelings are based on. Does this make sense to you guys? This is, I'm telling you, Linda and I have been going through this, and it gets rough sometimes. We like those people with positive love bank balances, and we dislike those with negative balances. But if an account reaches a certain threshold, a very special emotional reaction is triggered. Romantic love. Oh. So let's look at the slide. Romantic love. Now here's the thing. What goes up can and often does go down. You know the drill. I told you. You get married, you're standing there at the front of the church, and this vision of loveliness comes walking toward you, and you think, oh, I'm the luckiest man alive. And 6 months later, you want to crush her skull with a hammer. Okay, maybe not the last one, maybe not quite that extreme. Once they reach that certain love, that romantic love threshold, we don't just love them now, we're in love with them. Sorry, Mike. I love you, but not going to happen. They reach that romantic love threshold. Look, did you ever just walk up to somebody and instantly you love them? I mean, maybe if they give you a hamburger or something, maybe, but it's still not romantic love. I met Lynette at my grandpa's church. I looked across the church, there she was, and I asked Iris, a lady in our church, hey, who's the blonde chick over there? That's my niece. Would you like to meet her? I said, well, yes, I would. And we started talking. Started getting to know each other. Took her out to her first date to Sizzler. And I had coupons my grandpa gave me. Guys, that's how you know you're a smooth operator. Your first date is the Sizzler. And as you're standing in line, you say, I have some coupons. If Lynette had been smart right then, she'd have said, check, please. I just forgot I need to go change the air in my tires in my car. Oh my gosh. I will tell you, though, that at that lunch, sitting across from her, as I watched her talk about her job as a preschool teacher, and I heard her passion about it, I thought, she's the one. I went back to Costa Mesa where I was going to college, and I told the guys in my quad, I just met the girl I'm going to marry. Shut up, Gutsy. No, trust me. And in September of that year, we got married. And she's regretted it ever since. No. This feeling of love is the way our emotions encourage us to spend more time with someone who takes especially good care of us. Someone who's effective at making us very happy and knows how to avoid making us unhappy. We start not just wanting to be around them, we start craving to be around them. That's that feeling of being in love. When we're together, we feel fulfilled, and when we're apart, we feel lonely and incomplete. So the feeling of love is usually effective not only in drawing people together for significant amounts of time, but also in encouraging them to spend their entire lives together in marriage. Understand that when we feel loved by somebody, we want to feel loved back. We want them to reciprocate it. You ever heard the term unrequited love? Where you love somebody and they don't love you back. Unrequited love. And is there anything more painful than that? Than just feeling these deep feelings of love for somebody and, now they call it the friend zone. The friend zone. I love you so much. Yeah, I know, you're a great friend. Once in a great, great while, like one out of maybe a million, a guy jumps out of the friend zone and into the romantic zone. And when he does, we all cheer him because we think there's hope for us now. He did it! No, he's not there anymore. We fall in love. Our emotions want us to keep that person around. Yeah, we have the look of love. The look of love not only communicates our feeling of love for someone, but it also reflects our instinct to do whatever it takes to make that person happy. When you get that feeling of romantic love, you'll do anything you can for that person. However, what goes up can usually come down, and love bank balances are no exception. As most married couples have discovered, the feeling of romantic love is much more fragile than we ever thought. When you're dating, you say, I will love you forever. I'm always going to be in love with you. I love you so much, honey. I love you so much. Before, when you're dating, the car door is obviously too heavy for a woman of her frail size to shut, so you have to shut the car door for her. And God forbid she should walk alone by herself across the dangerous front lawn in her house. You have to walk her up to the front lawn, to the door. You've been married 6 months? Aren't you getting out? Something changes. If the love bank balances drop below the romantic love threshold, a couple not only lose their feeling of passion for each other, but they lose their instinct to make each other happy. Understand, being in love is a fragile thing in your marriage, and you need to protect it. I will tell you that I did not do that. And it hurts. All those promises I made, and I didn't stick through them. What was once effortless between two couples who were in love now becomes awkward, and it might even become repulsive. Instead of the look of love, couples have the look of apathy. Without love, a husband and wife no longer want to spend their lives together. Instead, they start thinking of divorce or at least living their lives apart from each other. The love bank is one of the most important concepts I've learned in marriage, and I've only learned it in the last year. How do you keep your balances high? How do you make sure that your love bank doesn't go into default? How do you keep the red lines from showing up? The concept is simple. And by the way, the concept is the same whether you're still in love or whether you've kind of fallen out of love. Okay? What we're talking about now is the way that you kind of rekindle the flame. Okay? If a couple wants to have a happy and fulfilling marriage, they must make as many love bank deposits as possible and avoid making withdrawals. To achieve this, something's got to change. Because, like anybody else, we're in habits in our marriages. Go to work, come home, watch TV, go to bed. Well, did that meet your wife's needs? Probably not. We've got to learn how to make each other happy and quit making each other unhappy. So, let's talk about love busters. Love buster? No, okay. No, it'd be, who are you going to call? Love busters. No, don't call them. Don't call them. Let's go back to 1 Corinthians 13 because this gives us the answer. 1 Corinthians 13 gives us the answer to what the love busters are and also how to build things up. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud. So can you pick out what the love buster is there? The love buster is being jealous or boastful or proud, or the opposite of patient, which is impatient. Being a jerk, I think, is the opposite of being kind. Is that? No. It does not demand its own way. So what's the opposite? Demands its own way. It's not irritable. I really don't do good at that one. It keeps no record of being wronged. It doesn't rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, endures through every circumstance. The love you and your spouse have for each other is directly affected by almost all of your behavior. All day you're either making deposits or making withdrawals. There really isn't any neutral ground here. You're either making deposits or you're taking stuff away. When you do something that makes your spouse happy, you're making a deposit. But when you do something that makes your spouse unhappy, you're making withdrawal. You would think that the last thing a married couple wants to do is make the other person unhappy. But guess who's in charge when you're making them unhappy? The taker. The taker is the one that accomplishes that. The giver is doing everything they can to make you feel better, but the taker's taking. Unless you protect each other from your destructive instincts and habits, you'll hurt each other so much that eventually your love bank accounts will be in the red and you'll hate each other. Understand, once your love bank deposits get so much, you hate them. And you can tell when you've crossed that threshold because you quit caring about doing anything good for them. All you care about is what they're going to do for you. I want you to understand, if you don't protect each other from yourselves, you may not have the opportunity to care for each other. You have got to protect your wife. You've got to protect your husband from your base instincts, from the things in your life that don't belong there. The selfishness, the hurt, the wanting to inflict. I feel bad, now you need to feel bad with me. Why would any of us want to hurt the one we promised to love and cherish? The biggest reason is a lack of empathy. Here's the thing. If I hit my thumb with a hammer, you don't feel it. You look at it and you say, ow, I bet that hurt. Or if you're like my wife, you laugh at me. I don't know what it is, but I have been hurt in front of her a few times, physically hurt, and her first reaction is always to laugh. I don't think that's the giver in her doing that. And then she feels real bad. I'm sorry I laughed. Yeah, I know. Heard it before. We don't feel the feelings of others. We don't feel the feelings of others. We are emotionally isolated. If you tell me that I hurt your feelings, okay. I hurt your feelings. I didn't hurt my feelings. And we think, well, that sounds mean. Maybe, but that's the way it is. And what happens because of a lack of empathy is we're emotionally isolated. Because I can't feel what you feel, it's easier for me to do things to you that I shouldn't do. So not only do we not feel what we're doing to them, we don't feel how what we're doing to them affects them. I dare you to go back and read 1 Corinthians 13 again and find any of the places where it's okay for us to hurt somebody and not care that we hurt them. I will give lip service to it. I'm sorry. But are you really? Because if you're really sorry, you won't do it again. And I know, I fight that all the time. There are things in my life that don't belong in a marriage because I'm kind of a fiery kind of guy. I'm ready, I'm the ready, fire, aim guy. And I run off emotion, and we were talking about it in the car on the way down. I've spent my entire life, from the time I was 8 years old on, trying to prove that I'm as good as anybody else. It comes from a lot of stuff from my childhood, and look, it's my greatest strength. It's also my greatest weakness. And it's that way in a lot of us. Sometimes your greatest strength is also your greatest weakness. If we were really emotionally tied to everyone, if I had to be emotionally tied to every one of you in this room, but especially to my wife, if every comment that I made, I could feel exactly what it felt for her, I could feel exactly what it did to her, I would know, don't do that again. That hurt too bad. But I can't do that. A lack of empathy helps make thoughtlessness possible. Because we can't feel them, it's easier for us to hurt them. Since we don't feel what others feel, we tend to minimize the negative effects we have on others and consider our thoughtfulness to be benign. Well, I don't know why you're crying. There's no reason for you to cry about that. We were watching Live PD last night, and the Oklahoma State Trooper had this guy, and he's talking to him through the window, and the guy's crying. He says, and the trooper says, I'm going to need you to stop crying right now. And I thought that was the funniest thing I ever heard a cop say to somebody. Okay, it's the funniest thing I've heard a cop say that I can repeat in church. Some people think that their angry outburst is just, their creative expression. Well, I was mad and I just got to let it out or I'm going to die. Shut up. Really, just shut up. Disrespect is viewed as helping the other spouse gain proper perspective. Honey, and I mean this with all due respect. And by the way, when you say with all due respect, whatever comes after that is not going to have respect tied to it, I guarantee you. With all due respect, sir, you're a booger-eating moron. Okay, that's not, you can't say with all due respect. It's like in the military, they say, permission to speak freely? You better not. I'll give you permission. He doesn't really. A demand is nothing more than encouraging a spouse to do what he or she should have done all along. I'm not making a demand. I'm just trying to help you see that this is something you should have done. Sparky, it's a demand. And we don't see any of these that we're gaining at our spouse's expense because, after all, to us, they're personally reasonable. And to us, we don't feel the pain that they feel when we do them. In fact, I've got a thing for you to do, okay? Husbands and wives, next time you're going to talk about serious things, I want each of you to have a hammer. Sit across the table from each other and put your hands out. And when you say something ugly, your spouse gets to whack your hand with a hammer. Please, down on the fly, was not even in my notes. But if I could whack you with a hammer every time you hurt my feelings, you'd think, I really need to be more careful. Because I don't look good with all these lumps. Whenever one spouse is the cause of the other's unhappiness, one thing's for sure, love bank withdrawals are taking place. If the way you're talking, the things you're doing are hurting the person you're with, you're withdrawing from their love bank. And it's not their responsibility at that point to build the love bank back up, it's yours. So what are the love busters? Well, Dr. Harley says they really fall into 6 categories. The first is selfish demands. I want what I want. I don't care what it makes you do. This is what I want. And if you don't like it, tough maracas, this is what has to be. Disrespectful judgments. You ever judge your spouse? Don't say it out loud right now because you'll get smacked. Angry outbursts. This is one place where Dr. Harley and I disagree a little bit. He says that angry outbursts are when you are purposely trying to hurt your spouse. I've never purposely tried to hurt Lynette. But I will tell you that some of my anger that is shown, even if it wasn't directed at her, hurt her. And so I'm telling you that if you can't control your temper, you better figure it out. And I say that as a guy who's had to learn how, and still has to learn how to handle his temper. Dishonesty. Independent behavior. That's number 1 on Jerry Gottes's hit parade, independent behavior. Annoying habits. Ouch. Okay, the first 3 of these are instinctive yet thoughtless ways to try to get what we want from each other. Look at them. Selfish demands, disrespectful judgments, angry outbursts. Those are 3 things that we do. They're just in us. They just come from us. But they're us trying to get what we want. So, when a request doesn't work, a spouse will often revert to a demand. I don't care how you feel, do it or else. If that doesn't get the job done, a spouse will try disrespectful judgments. If you had any sense and weren't so lazy and selfish, you'd do it. By the way, if you're talking to each other like this, you need to stop. Because number 1, it's not right. Number 2, it's not Christian. When all of that fails, an angry outburst often represents the last-ditch effort. I'll see to it that you regret not having done it. That's a threat. Of course, demands, disrespect, and anger don't really get the job done. And look, even if you get somebody to comply for a little bit, the love bank withdrawals you're making by doing these are huge. These are huge, huge withdrawals. And if you're treating your spouse like this, you are driving them away from you. Understand that. And by the way, let me just talk to you for a second, just from my heart. If you don't think this is important, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go home today, get alone by yourself in the bathroom, look at yourself in the mirror, and imagine having the conversation with your kids where you have to say, Daddy has to go live somewhere else. Because I didn't understand how to make your mom happy. Ladies, imagine looking in the eyes of your babies and telling them, Daddy and Mom aren't going to live together anymore because I didn't care how he felt. I just wanted what I wanted. Go ahead. I dare you. Have that conversation with yourself. And by the way, if where this all came from, I wrote a column on adultery years ago. And I said, before you think about taking that leap, I want you to go and I want you to go to the bathroom and explain to your children that Daddy has to go live somewhere else because, can I just put it bluntly? Because he couldn't keep it in his pants. Imagine driving by the house and watching your kids eat dinner with their new daddy. And then you tell me whether that romp in the hay is worth it. Because it ain't. Can I get much more real than that? Hey guys, this is what we're talking about. This is not take it or leave it. This is not, oh, Jerry's got a good idea, but I don't really have to do it. You have to do this. You must start treating your spouse the way they deserve to be treated and before God the way you should treat them. If you don't, you are wrong. And I will go so far as to say that you are sinning. Look, I want you to have everything you want in marriage, but demands and disrespectful judgment, that's not the way to do it. It's not the way to do it. When you indulge in these 3 love busters, you do more than fail to get what you need. You also destroy the love your spouse has for you. The 4th love buster, dishonesty, causes massive love bank withdrawals whenever it's discovered. You know what Harley says? He says that most Christian counselors and even some pastors would tell you if you've had an affair and it's over and it's long gone, don't tell your wife. Why hurt her with that? Harley says, no. Do it. Tell her. Because it's better to rip the Band-Aid off now and have a crop up later and be that much worse because it was discovered by somebody else, not by you. Somebody else told her about it, not you. Better for a momentary pain than one that's going to be in the back of your head your whole life. And is that hard? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's rough. But you need to be honest with your spouse. If you or your spouse are shading the truth, or you just flat out lie, get that bad habit out of your marriage before it ruins everything. The 5th love buster, independent behavior, the conduct of one spouse that ignores the feelings and interests of the other spouse. I told you, this is Jerry Gotze. And it's like, okay, hey, Lynette, on Friday we need to go do this. And she's like, but I didn't really want to do that on Friday. Well, yeah, but I need to do it. Okay, well, I haven't given her any choice, have I? And I'm telling you, I'm working on this myself. Honey, how would you feel if Friday we did this? Do you think that's easy? No. I'm going to teach you something in a minute that you're going to really hate, but you need to do it. Finally, annoying habits, behavior that is repeated without much thought that bothers your spouse. And I'm not talking about breathing. I hate it. He keeps breathing in and out. No, I'm not talking about that. You know what it was for us? Is it okay? I'm going to. I asked you, and then I said I'm going to do it anyway. So, okay. Independent behavior. Okay. One of the things that bugged Lynette, I had no idea, was I would use a sponge and then leave it in the sink. Okay, now in the grand scheme of things that I do that's wrong, that's really, really low. That's like way low. That's not even in the basement. Okay, so I told her, that's stupid, and I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, do you see any visible scars? No, because I didn't say that, because just because I look stupid doesn't mean I am. So you know what I do now? I put the sink in I put the soap or the sponge in the little sponge thing. Did it cost me anything? Do I put it there and say, I better put this there or Lynette's going to get mad? No. I do it because it bugged her and I love her and I don't want to bug her. Not any more than I already do just by breathing. Now, the good news is that love busters have positive replacements. So instead of selfish demands, use thoughtful requests. Honey, I'd like to get a new dishwasher. And here's why. How do you feel about us getting a new dishwasher? And you think, well, that's silly. You know, you got to start the small stuff or you don't get to the big stuff. Guys, don't just come home with a new dishwasher. About a new dishwasher. Why? Didn't like the old one. Maybe your wife really did like that one. Maybe she has a deep emotional attachment to that dishwasher. I don't know. Instead of disrespectful judgments, use respectful persuasion. And look, I'm not telling you have to be a doormat in your marriage. I'm telling you that there's a right way and a wrong way to get what you want. So, and look, if you're a parent, I encourage you to do this to your kids too, and it's hard. Every time you tell your kid to do something, you need to be able to have 3 or 4 reasons why they should do it. Isaac, go empty the trash. Why, Dad? Because if you don't, I'll kill you. That's really the only reason I got. He asked me one time, I told him, Isaac, go empty the trash. He goes, you going to pay me? No. You need dinner in the house tonight? Going to sleep in that room over there? That's all your pay. Go empty the trash. Lost my place. I hit my thumb on the screen here. Instead of angry outbursts, use self-control. Don't tell me that you have to lose your temper. I had a student once that was African American, and he lost his temper. I said, you got to stop that. He goes, no, Mr. Gutsy, it was my Irish temper. Said, dude, you're not Irish. He heard that in a movie or something, thought, that's a good thing. Yeah, no. Look, angry outbursts, and again, this is coming from me who has struggled with this his entire life. Learn to behave yourself. Just because you're angry doesn't mean you have to blow up. Instead of dishonesty, use radical honesty. Let me explain what radical honesty is. Reveal to your spouse as much information about yourself as you know. Your thoughts, feelings, habits, likes, dislikes. That's how I found out about the sponge. Personal history, daily activities, and plans for the future. We actually have a thing from Dr. Harley we've been working our way through, and it's amazing listening, because it asks you, like, where did you grow up, and what did you do in school, and all these things. And it's amazing here how differently Linda and I grew up. And we both had it rough in different ways. But as we're talking, I gained an appreciation for the woman she ended up being, because she had a rough go. She saw things she shouldn't have had to see. The more you know about each other, the easier it is to pinpoint the things that hurt them. Instead of independent behavior, use the policy of joint agreement. Now, this is the one we've been working on. Never do anything without an enthusiastic agreement. Never do anything without an enthusiastic agreement between you and your spouse. Honey, what do you think about going to SeaWorld? I'm kind of tired. Okay. I'm not going to SeaWorld. Yeah, but that means you don't get to go to SeaWorld, right? That also means I'm not hurting my wife by going. So I need to find something that we both want to do, that we can do together, that we'll both enjoy. All right, so if we're not going to go to SeaWorld, let's go to Seaport Village and walk around. Yeah, that'd be great. Bang. There's an afternoon we both enjoy. Didn't cost either one of us anything emotionally. Didn't take withdrawals, made deposits. Life is good. Is that really so hard? Is that really so hard that instead of me just telling Lynette, hey, we're going to SeaWorld? And by the way, that's an extreme example. But I'm talking about, what do you do about going to dinner? Honey, going to Sizzler. I got coupons. And she just says, oh, I love you so much. Policy of joint agreement. Work it out. Talk it over. Lynette and I sat down yesterday for about an hour, went over the week's schedule and talked about what we wanted to do. We have a date night that we were going to do, and so we talked about what we're going to do that day, and hey, here's what we're going to do. And then we got another day we kind of got planned, but it's kind of left a little looser. And I guarantee you, we're both looking forward to Thursday night. Thursday afternoon, we get to spend time together. We're going to go do some fun things. See, it gives us a whole week of just anticipation. Instead of annoying habits, just don't do them. There's really instead of annoying habits, just stop it. So how do you do all this? We're almost done. How do you do all of this? Through intimate conversation. Now, if you're a guy, and I said intimate, the first thing you thought was, naked, I'm in. No. I'm talking about emotionally intimate. And all the guys went, oh, I hate you, Jerry. When Dr. Harley meets couples who have fallen out of love, he almost always starts with intimate conversation. Why? Because that's how you build love bank deposits back up. When you were dating, intimate conversation was almost effortless. You wanted to get to know them. You thought everything they said was, I could spend hours talking to you. You haven't had more than a 2-sentence conversation with anybody in your life, if you're a guy, and now you're like talking on the phone to this chick for an hour and a half, and it seems like 5 minutes. Why? Because you're in love. I'm in love. And then all of a sudden you get married and you're back to the 2-sentence conversations. I'm hungry. When's dinner? Intimate conversation is how you fell in love. And if your need for intimate conversation was fulfilled in courtship, you also expect it to be met after marriage. If you fell in love because they met your need for intimate conversation, and then after marriage they took that away, what happens? Now you're not put in the love bank anymore. Now, I want to tell you something very important here. The need for conversation can ethically be met by anyone. Okay, I'm talking about just conversation. You want to talk about the Dodgers? I'll talk to you about the Dodgers, not the Cowboys. Okay? I'll talk about the Dodgers. I know, I went too far. I'm sorry. But my need for intimate conversation can only be met by one person on this planet, and she's doing the PowerPoint. In fact, if you're engaged in intimate conversation with the opposite sex outside of marriage, it will deposit so many love units that you may fall in love with that person. This is how affairs start. If you're talking with your wife to a woman that you work with, it's not a question of if you'll fall, it's a question of when. Ladies, if you're talking to another man about your problems with your husband, it's not if, it's when. That's how you fell in love with your husband. What do you think you're doing? That's how you fell in love with your wife. Are you trying to fall in love again? And you say, and I know, I've heard all the excuses. Oh, but my wife doesn't understand me. She understands me. Then make your wife understand. Help your wife understand. Just because I'm hungry doesn't mean I get to eat off your plate. Husbands and wives, your intimate conversation should be only for your spouse. It's crucial to your marital happiness that your spouse is the one who meets this need. So, there are some enemies of intimate conversation. Let's talk about them. 1 Corinthians 13, 4 and 5 again. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, does not boast, it's not proud, does not dishonor others. It's not self-seeking, it's not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. So when you're talking, having an interest, and by the way, you need to schedule intimate conversation time with your spouse. And well, why would we schedule that? Because if you don't schedule it, it won't happen. You with me? Lynette and I have a daily schedule that we have worked out. You know how we get to break it? The policy of joint agreement. We have to decide we're going to do something different. And it's like 4 o'clock, we're cooking dinner together. 5 o'clock, we're eating dinner together, and then we're cleaning up together. And then we got an hour or so, hour and a half, 2 hours, where it's just her and I. We're doing a project, something recreational together. Because it's important to meet that need too. But we're together, we're concentrating on each other. The enemies of intimate conversation: making demands, being disrespectful, expressing anger, dwelling on mistakes of the past and present. Now, Lynette, would you go one slide back to 1 Corinthians 13? Sorry. I sprung that on her at the last second. Love is patient, love is kind, doesn't envy, doesn't boast, it's not proud, does not dishonor others, it's not self-seeking, it's not easily angered, keeps no record of wrongs. Do you see any of the enemies of intimate conversation in that list? Only as things not to do, right? Only as things not to do. So let's look at them again. Making demands, being disrespectful. And by disrespectful, I'm not saying, you'd be amazed what disrespectful means to different people. If you make somebody feel like they're less than important, that's disrespectful. If you make somebody feel like they're stupid, that's disrespectful. Expressing anger, dwelling on the mistakes of the past and present. You've got to stay away from these. So how do you do that? Well, there's also friends of intimate conversation. The first and second friends of intimate conversation deal with content, what to say. The third and fourth deal with etiquette, how to behave. Okay? So the first one, inform, investigate, and understand each other. And again, I'm going to link to all of this on the website. There is a personal history questionnaire on the Marriage Builders website. It'll give you all kinds of things to talk about. And work your way through the list. we're not even halfway through, are we? Because we talk. Believe it or not, that's what's supposed to happen when you do this. You're supposed to talk. Where'd you grow up? I grew up in L.A. Come on, let's go. No, we grew up in this little house on Beloit Avenue, and then Dad left, and so we had to move, and we went to go live in this really cruddy place over here. Share your history. The more your spouse knows about you, the better off you are. And by the way, folks, this doesn't just work with spouses, this works with kids. This is a great idea for your kids. I mean, and you even know the answers. You know where your kid grew up, you were with them, theoretically. But do you want to hear what they thought about where they grew up? Dr. Harley says interview each other half an hour a day. And every one of you, come on guys, every one of you like, I'm not doing this for half an hour. All right, do you want a happy marriage or not? Hey, look, none of this is easy. None of this is something we do naturally. And that's why we've fallen out of love. That's why we're hurting. We need to do this to restore our marriages and our relationships. Number 2, develop an interest in each other's favorite topics of conversation. That's pretty obvious, isn't it? If you really want your husband to talk, find something he likes to talk about and talk about it with him. Baseball. Yeah, we don't like baseball. No, but he does. So now I'm not telling you need to be an expert on baseball. You don't need to be able to break down whether that left-handed batter and the right-handed pitcher, whether he should have thrown a curveball or slider. I'm not telling you have to do that. But at least be knowledgeable enough to talk to them about it. None of this. Hey, you know, I was watching the Dodger game the other night, and they're really doing well. Yeah, that's good. Really? That's all you got? Really, Sparky? That's all you got? Lynette she likes miniature stuff. And yet she married the biggest human she could find. So I don't understand how that all goes together. But she builds like doll furniture, and she built a doll. I mean, it's amazing stuff. I don't know anything about miniature. Here's what I do know. I know there's no way I could do what she does because I would throw it across the room. I'd be so frustrated. There's too many little fiddly things. Okay? So I like cars. And she likes cars, okay, but not like I like cars. I like cars. So we've already talked about it. We're going to go, we're going on vacation in September, and we didn't find the Museum of Miniatures, so we got to find something for you. But she likes other museums, so we're going to go to those. And we're going to go to the Peterson Auto Museum. Now, she likes cars enough to carry on a conversation with me, and I learned about miniatures. I learned about it, and come to find out, it's kind of fascinating. It's really cool stuff. I didn't think I was going to like it at first. First, I was like, I don't want to do this. Just pull my fingernails out, please. But you know why I learned about them? Because I love her. And if it's important to her, it's important to me. And balance the conversation. Which means that you both talk. Which means that one of you doesn't dominate the conversation. And look, I get it. Mostly it's the guy is not talking much. That's just not our wire. It's not the way we're wired. I get it. But that's no excuse. If you have trouble carrying on a conversation and one of you does all the talking, the other one doesn't do anything, here's what I want you to do. This is what Dr. Harley says. Get a chess clock. You ever seen a chess clock? You know, they're doing all that, like Boris Spassky and all these Bobby Fischer, they're doing all the big chess guys, you know. They're the ones that call it a rook, not a horsey. They call it a bishop, not a pointy thing. Okay, I get it. You get it? They have a clock, and you have like 15 minutes or whatever you set it for. I've seen speed chess. You ever seen speed chess? Where you got like a minute, bang, 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 and it's just going fast. So what you do is you finish your move, boom, and the next guy has 15 minutes to do his move. And if he gets done early, he can hit his clock early. But more often than not, these guys are just standing there looking at it because they want to figure it all out. So when you're talking to each other, if you can't carry on a balanced conversation, get a little clock, use your phone, whatever. Set 15 minutes and say, okay, honey, you have 15 minutes. Tell me what you want to tell me. Talk about it. And he wants to talk about the Dodgers for 15 minutes? Talk about the Dodgers for 15 minutes. Now, that doesn't mean you're sitting there listening the whole time. Oh, dear God, make him stop. It means you're having a conversation. Honey, I saw the miniature table you made the other day. Golly, that was amazing. Yeah, I know. And I had to sand it. I didn't really like the finish, but I may redo it. Well, I like the way it looks. It's a conversation. It's not one of you talking for 15 minutes. That's a lecture. That's a monologue. That's Hamlet. Give each other undivided attention when conversing with each other. Put your phone away. But the world may end. If the world ends, you don't need your phone anyway. And look, I get it. Look, I work a job where I have weird hours, and I have made allowances, and I will just tell you that I've just made allowances lately of when I'm going to have my phone with me and when I'm not. And if we're having date night or intimate conversation, I don't care what's going on at the ranch. That ranch phone is not coming with me. And my other phone stays in my pocket. The other day, Vince and Jeremiah were having a remnant staff meeting, which is we were texting each other. That's how we do staff meetings. And Lynette and I were together at a place, and my phone is blowing up. It's buzzing in my pocket like crazy, and I know something's going on, but you know what? It didn't matter what was going on because she was the most important person right then. Finally, I had to go to the bathroom. I really did. I wasn't just excusing myself to do that. I really did. She was like, oh, sure. No, it really was. I really did. And I said, I'm gonna go check. Because I made a remark. I said, my phone's blowing up. And so I said, I'm gonna go to the restroom. While I do, I'll check my messages and see if I have to. So I texted a couple of things to him, and then I disappeared out of the conversation again because the phone went back in my pocket. Is that easy for me? No. But I want her to know she's the most important thing in my life. And so if I want her to know that, I've got to treat her that way. I'd love to tell you that I'm good at that. I'm really not. See, I never want to lie to you guys when I'm preaching. I never want to lie to you. I want to tell you all of this stuff, I'm struggling with this just like you are. I'm working my way just like you are. If the cost of being able to preach is perfection, then none of us are going to be up there next Sunday. I'll just throw Vince in there. None of us are going to be up here next Sunday. Please do not ever get the feeling that one of your pastors is telling you, we've got this all figured out. A lot of times what we're telling you is what God's doing in us, and we're hoping it helps you. And you know what? I think that's better. I don't want you to think I'm perfect and spend 5 minutes with me, you know I'm not. But I don't want you to think that I get up here and I've got, telling you all the things that you have to do because, I've got this all figured out. I think I'd rather hear from somebody that's in the fight than somebody who's never gotten out of the stands. Guys that never played football are really good at telling other people how to play football. You know what? Strap on a helmet, come out here with the rest of us, and then we'll talk. I got news for you. Your pastors, we're in it. We're in the fight. We're in the struggle. And none of us are perfect. But we are determined to do it right. I love you too much to shine you on. I love you too much to tell you something that's not real. Hey, this is real. This is stuff I'm learning. Lynette's learning. We're doing it together. And it's making it better, but at times it makes it worse because sometimes before it gets better, it gets worse. Here's what I know. I know we love each other very much, and we're going to go through this hell or high water. We're going to do what we can, each one of us individually, plus together. We're going to do everything we can to continue having a good marriage or to start having a good marriage. Can you make that commitment today? Hey, look, Jerry, some of this stuff sounds weird. Okay, get the book, read it. Please read it. You can order from Christian Book Distributors or from the Marriage Builders website. Get it, read it. Work through it. The thing that is not an option, the thing that is not an option is not doing anything. If you walk out of here and you think, well, you know, Jerry, I don't care. I'm still going to treat my spouse the way I want to treat him anyway. Okay, but is that really godly? Is that really right? No. Work it out. Talk. 1 Corinthians 13, love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It's not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through most circumstances. No, it's every. Love endures through every circumstance. Prophecy and speaking in unknown languages and special knowledge become useless, but love will last forever. How much of this verse sums up your marriage? How much of this verse sums up your relationship with your spouse, with your kids? It's on you. Your turn. And if you find anything in this verse, this passage that you're not doing, you need to start doing it. And if you find anything in here that you're not supposed to be doing and you're doing it, stop. Well, it sounds easy. Yeah, it's not, but it can be if we do things the right way. Okay? Love you guys. I want more than anything else for you to do well at this. So I'll stand. I've given you a challenge. It's up to you whether or not you do it. Father, thanks. God, I pray that you'll speak to husbands and wives today. Lord, that you will challenge them. That our ways of doing things, our preconceived notions, God, that we will be better. God, thanks. Thanks. Help us now, Father. I pray that you will transform the marriages in this room, God, the families in this room. God, do something great. Thanks, God. Thanks. Bless us now. We ask it in your name. Amen. Love you.
Amazing love that welcomes me, the kindness of mercy that bought with blood wholeheartedly, my soul undeserving. God, you're so good. God, you're so good. God, you're so good. You're so good to me. hour by hour. The dead are raised, the sinner saved, the work of your power. God, you're so good. God, you're so good. God, you're so good. You're so good to me. I am blessed, I am cold, I am healed, I am whole, I am saved in Jesus' name. Highly favored, anointed, and filled with your power for the glory of Jesus' name. I am blessed, I am cold, I am healed, I am whole, I am saved in Jesus' name. Highly favored, anointed, and filled with your power for the glory of Jesus' name. And should this life bring suffering, Lord, I will remember what Calvary has bought for me, both now and forever. Oh God, you're so good. God, you're so good. God, you're so good. You're so good to me. So good, Lord. Thank you, Father, for another great chance to come together, praise you together, to hear you, to learn from you together. God, thank you. God, I pray today that we would take this message, ready to live it, Lord, for our marriages, all our relationships, God. God, thank you. We leave here ready to serve you, to live for you, to honor you, God. God, we pray these things in your great name. Amen.
Some people say